Hey folks, I got a new update to the 4coder virtual whitespace auto code formatting project. So this time what I've got is up until now everything I've shown you has used unwrapped lines, right? Even now I'm using unwrapped lines. The line wrapping is not turned on. And getting some of the features working correctly with line wrapping wasn't so hard, but to get the whole thing working with line wrapping, the metadata that measures where each line starts when the wrapping is enabled needs to be correct. Because otherwise, if you move around, it doesn't have any way of lining up, oh, if I move to this Y position, that's this line. So it needs some metadata that helps it do those seeks. Okay? And now that metadata is aware of virtual whitespace, which was not true in the past. I added a different metadata that I think I discussed last time with character positioning systems. Right, the apparent character positioning system was a different metadata that was being used to add a new positioning system. This is the same, an old positioning system. The just XY coordinates on the screen. It's just that now it's also aware of virtual whitespace, which it wasn't previously, which means that line wrapping now works. So if I turn on line wrapping and make my column small enough that we can get a few wraps going on here, then we can navigate around. And up until now, basically everything worked, but as you tried to move up and down, since the metadata was off, you would occasionally, your X position would change because it didn't know that it was shifted over more than it should be, or, you know, it would skip a line accidentally because it thought that the line didn't wrap as much. Like if you look right here, this is wrapping 3 times, but only by 3 characters. If there was no indent starting this line here, right, those 3 characters wouldn't need to show up on a 3rd line, so it would think that there's only 2 lines here and jump down to here when I try to move into the R, right? All kinds of little things like that were going wrong because the metadata for line wrapping didn't know about it didn't know about virtual whitespace, and now it does. So that's today's update, I suppose. There's a little bit more on this that needs to happen because I've got the metadata measuring works, but I'd like to sort of drill down on it more. I don't know if I'll do that right away or if I'll put that off until I got other parts of the system working, because the way the line wrapping has to be upgraded next is you can see right now one whole line all wraps to the same position. So for instance, this right here is one whole line, and it's all wrapping to the same position. And technically I have the flexibility to put the wrapped positions anywhere. I just am always aligning them to based on where their line is. So the next thing that technically needs to happen is I need to figure out, do I always have to keep those, like, do I keep a data structure that knows where where each how much indent I put on each line? For instance, if I'm indenting code, I don't want to line wrap each line to the back to where that line started. If I have like a line that contains a function call and the line wrap happens after a few parameters of the function call, I want the next parameter to line up with the parenthesis, so the whole indent line, like the whole virtual indent, would be from the all the way to the left, all the way to where that character needs to go to line up with the parenthesis, right? And that means that it doesn't necessarily match with what's above it. It's got to be somehow independent, and then the questions become like, oh, if I insert a brace here, do I remeasure all of those indents immediately? What happens right now when I don't use virtual whitespace is when I insert a brace, I just say, okay, later the user will balance that brace out, and then they'll tell me which area to re-indent. So maybe I have a data structure that represents how much indentation happens at each line and at each wrap point, and then the user says, oh, please update this region for me because it's off right now and I've changed some stuff that'll affect how it lines up. On the other hand, maybe I want to find some way to keep it always correct, but that's a little hard to imagine doing when you insert a brace and it has to redo the file, and then you insert another brace to close it somewhere else and it redoes the whole file again. So that's the next sort of area I have to explore, and that's the slightly, I would say, the part that's less well defined. So it's a harder problem, not because the details of it to implement it are harder, but because what exactly the correct way effect is not clear to me yet. So that's where I'm going to go next, and maybe once I have the answer to that, I'll go back and drill down on all of these different parts and make them make sure that I'm like properly testing them and making them fast. Although most of them are pretty solid, I think even now they could use they could use more attention since I've been sort of just putting each piece together in an attempt to get the whole system working at once. Since really none of the parts by themselves are all that testable or interesting. Okay, so that's it for today. Thank you for following along, and I'll see you guys later. Bye bye.